All right, sorry, we had to start all over. For some reason, it's not working. It's not working right on my channel, so we're starting over, but that's okay. We can take care of it. It's not a big problem. So let me fix it over here. We'll go back and reread what I was reading, and we're going to talk about how the internet moves fast, but the truth does not. I have examples of where the internet presumed somebody was guilty, named the wrong person, and their lives were ruined forever. That's kind of what we're talking about over here. So let me pull this back up the correct way. Y'all just bear with me for just a moment. I don't know what happened to my feed over there, but it's like it could not see it from from StreamYard to YouTube. So anyway, here we go. Let's fix this. Okay, no, let me look at my content here. I'm telling you, when it rains, it pours. Let's see. Okay, it doesn't want to show me that either. Funny. Wait a minute, is this it? No. Okay. I don't know. I know it's working now, so we're good. But anyway, let's go back to our chat GTP and let's get going on that and let's finish it up here. All right, that's all working well, fine. Okay. I'm going to reread my disclaimer. I need to start with that. This broadcast may contain excerpts of copyrighted material, including clips from YouTube videos and other publicly available sources. These materials are used for purposes of commentary, criticism, news reporting, and education under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. All third-party content is transformed through analysis, discussion, and contextual breakdowns. This channel does not claim ownership of any external material used. The intent is to inform, examine facts, and distinguish between viral narratives and verified information. If you are a copyright owner and have concerns, please contact me directly. All right, we've got that. Hey, Sprinkle. Yeah, how you doing, girl? Good to see you. Yeah, my feed was just gone on YouTube a while ago. It just wasn't there. I was like, what the hell? So anyway, here we are. But what we're going to talk about today is just something that's very interesting, and I think it needs to be talked about. But listen, I know, aren't you off tomorrow? Or whenever you're off, we're going to get back on Gypsy Rose Blanchard. I want to talk to you about, I found some other things on her case too. But her case is the perfect example of when something is perceived to be true, but it's really not. Even when you bring out the black and white of it and you show people who support her that what was told in the beginning is a lie, they're still going to believe it no matter what. So this is kind of what I'm talking about when I say the internet moves fast, but the truth doesn't. That is our topic for today. So let me kind of fix this over here. I just can't believe, I don't know why. It's crazy how sometimes the StreamYard just does not want to work with YouTube sometimes. I don't get it. I really don't. I'm going to see if I can delete this other thing because now it's kind of like, let me make sure it's playing. Yes, this one's playing with the, all right, we're good on that. Great. All right, get rid of that. I want to try to get rid of this one. Hang on a second. Yes, there, delete. All right, we're straight now. We're good. All right, now, and now the dog's going to bark. Of course he is. Hope everybody's had a great week. Yeah, you'll be, oh, great, tomorrow afternoon. Perfect, girl, perfect. And I'll just talk to you later about what we're going to talk about. But I went and rewatched a bunch of the videos because I slowed them down. You know, I had no social media with me when I was gone. I did not take my laptop, nothing. I just kind of just stayed away from it, right? So while I was gone, I got my head cleared. And when I got back, I started watching a little bit more of it. And I was like, listen, here's things that's coming out that we never really paid attention to before. But it's out there, guys. It's out there. So let me come back over here to my notes that I have here. Oh, of course, they're not there either now because I had to start my thing over. Nice. Very nice. And Jack's going to bark. Let me tell you guys, listen. I had to take my dogs to the doggy daycare, and they had to stay there while we were gone on this trip. And one of the things that happened was Jack got a little sick. Jack has allergies, you know, and he's just he's so sensitive. Well, they're trying to, so we're on the boat. It was like the third day before I could actually talk to them because we don't pay for the internet on boats. It's too expensive. There's no need. Because once you get into wherever you're going, your phone works in Mexico. It works wherever you're going. So I had to wait. So they contact me and they're like, oh, Jack's kind of sick. And I'm freaking out thinking, oh no, I got to get the emergency vet, blah, blah, blah. But then I realized that they had it too cold in there. They had it turned down to like 70 degrees at night. Well, these dogs, Frenchies have a little bit of an issue trying to regulate their temperatures. So they were a little bit cold, and he got a little bit of a runny nose. But anyway, it was all good. We got him on the Benadryl. He was fine. But I told my husband, I said, we cannot leave them that long ever again. It was just too long for me. I could not wait to get home. I mean, I had a good time, but I could not wait to get home to my little baby dogs. I love them. But anyway, so let's get back on topic over here. I'm sorry about that. I had to restart. Well, we know how it goes. So what I was saying was, before I had to start over, is the internet moves fast. It's faster than facts, like faster than the truth. And once this lie spreads, it doesn't just disappear. It is there forever, right? And sadly, people will never actually believe truth even when it comes out. We've seen that happen over and over, right? I mean, we've seen it happen with creators. We've seen it happen with cases. We've seen it happen with all kinds of things where no matter what, the people who've already made up their minds are not going to believe the truth when it does come out. So, okay, so here we go. Here's how it goes. Because what people think they know and what actually happened are not always the same thing, right? They're just not. So let me just say this. If you're new here, I break down real cases, real documents, and real statements, not just the headlines, not just the viral clips. And this show is important today because we're going to talk about how it happens. These things ruin people's lives. People don't realize that, but it will ruin your life in some of these situations. We're talking about how quickly misinformation spreads and how rarely people go back to check the truth. We've seen it over and over. So here's the problem. Here's the issues. Here we go. Let's say a clip goes viral. A headline gets shared, right? And within hours, it becomes the fact, according to some people, because, hey, they saw it on the internet, right? It must be real. That's not always true, though, is it? But no one seems to ask, where did the information come from? Was it verified? And what's missing? These are very important questions when you're talking about facts versus misinformation and true crime cases. So people don't wait anymore. They just react to it. They don't sit back and think, okay, listen, maybe I need to go check this someplace else. They just take what they see and they run with it. Okay, so we're going to start talking about real life examples. I just talked about Gypsy Rose Blanchard. That is a real life example of what happened here. People online repeat things constantly, but when you actually look at the footage, the court records, and the statements, you realize there's a lot of contradictions right there. Yet those clips, it just keeps on going. You still have people that will not watch the FOIAs. They will not watch the videos themselves. They will not look at the medical records being put out themselves. They're just going to take what was in the book, what was put on TV, and what the prosecutor or what the defense attorney dreamt up to get her a 10-year sentence and run with it. They will never change their mind, right? Another case that's sort of like that is Lori Vallow, okay? Where early narratives online were just all over the place. And only later did verified facts come out in court. But you still had people who were just they just didn't want to believe that she was capable of that. They didn't want to believe that her and Chad Daybell were capable of what they've done. But they were, right? So viral content is very fast. It's very emotional, but it's very incomplete. The actual truth is slower, it's documented, and sometimes it's very uncomfortable. We know that too. Most people never go back once the truth comes out. They never go back. They're like, oh, well, Think about this. Just because something is repeated 1,000 times does not make it true. It just makes it popular. Okay, here we go. So let me ask you, have you ever believed something about a case and then later found out it just wasn't true? Think about that. I know we have. We've seen it 100 times. We've seen it all over YouTube. We have even, and this is just something I want to talk about for just a second. We have even seen something come out at the very beginning of something, believed it ourselves because that is what we were shown, and we had nothing else we could even look at because so many of the facts were just not out there for us to even look. You couldn't get any information anywhere except what was out here, what was on the internet, there was nothing there was nothing to look up. Nobody shared the real facts anywhere. It wasn't until much, much later that facts started coming out about this one particular case, and we realized right then we had made the mistake. We were wrong. I mean, I've even done a video about it where I came out and said, you know what? That was wrong, completely wrong, and I can't believe that I listened to what was said in the beginning and went with that, thinking it was true. Shocking, right? But yes, I did make that mistake. We've all made that mistake. Okay, so one of the things that we're going to talk about over here also is let's talk about these public cases where this has happened, and now somebody's life is completely ruined. And one of them is, go back over here. Let's talk about the Boston Marathon bombing. Remember that? Remember that case? The Boston Marathon bombing was full of misinformation when it first happened. So let me write this down here. Hang on a second. Pull this back up. Misinformation. Okay. Let's go. Let's look at that for a quick second here. All right. That case, unfortunately, there were some people in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they looked guilty, right? But they weren't. Now, this happened back on April 15th, 2013, right? And 2 bombs go off near the finish line. It's complete chaos and confusion. And within minutes, the internet started everything to solve it. They just knew, right? But it was filled with misinformation. People on forums like Reddit, they just began analyzing these photos, looking at these backpacks, looking at the crowds, trying to identify suspects before law enforcement even released information. I mean, this is how this happens, right? Why is it? I hope my feed is not messing up. Let me look at the internet's there. It's good. So one name started spreading all around everywhere, and this person's name was Sunil Tripathi. He was a missing college student, okay? Completely innocent, but online, he was labeled as the suspect. His family was harassed, his name trended worldwide, and it was not true. What was actually true, let's talk about that. What was the actual truth when it actually came out? After a full investigation, authorities identified the real perpetrators, right? Tamerlan, I can't say their name properly, but I'm going to say it. Tamerlan Tsarnaev, 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 I think it is, and Daskar Tsarnaev. I know I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but that's the real perpetrators. Not the people the internet accused early. It wasn't them at all. Not the names that went viral. The truth came much later, after evidence, after investigation, and after verification. The internet didn't just get it wrong. It accused the wrong people or the wrong person. And that just never disappeared. Even when the truth came out, it never disappeared. So let me show you something about this right here. I'm going to show something from the beginning of that case. Let me pull this back up. Let me share my screen, guys. Hang on. I got to share my little screen over here. All right. Let's talk about the Boston Marathon and the wrongly accused people. There we go. Whoop, that's the wrong thing. Share your screen. Okay, let's share a screen. Now, share. All right. Now, before I start this, we need to give full credit to WCVB Channel 5 Boston. This is from their feed. And let's see, this is from, well, it's 10 years ago, but this is what really happened. So here we go. All right.
So were you there when the bombs went off?
No. Of course, I was, unfortunately, I was just arrived to my house.
Okay.
Saladin Barhoum felt lucky he left Boylston Street before the deadly explosions. But days later, the then 16-year-old Revere High School student was stunned.
All right. Let me give full credit to the news station that put this out. What was it? WSF? Oh, I forgot the name of it. Guys, hang on just a minute. Let's see. WCVB. All right. Let me put this out here. 5. All right. This is, I know it's old, but this is a perfect case, the perfect example of when this happens, okay? So let me show that right there. All right, here we go. Let's keep watching.
to see his picture on the front page of the New York
That
Post.
looks so
The
strange.
headline read, "Bagmen. Feds seek this duo pictured at the Boston Marathon."
I was nervous and I was scared for my life.
The native of Morocco was traumatized.
After that, my GPA went down from a 3.0 to a 1.8 in a matter of a month.
Salah's case against the Post was settled under confidential terms.
This is a college student. A college student who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, being falsely accused. His life is ruined forever. I mean, he was in college. What is he telling us right here? He's telling his GPA plummeted. When that happens, there's no do-overs, right? So think about what happened to this child. He was a child. He was just a college student, you know? Here we go.
Is it over for you?
Yes, of course it's over. Now all I'm trying to be successful in life and move on.
Salah is now a first-year student at Fitchburg State University, where his professor encouraged him to share what he learned with others.
Tolerance and acceptance, and an awareness that prejudice and judging people on the basis of their name or the color of their skin is just wrong.
Always stay humble, stay motivated, and your past, let your past motivate you in the future.
Salah will share his experiences here on campus Thursday afternoon.
Imagine being him. He's got a really good attitude about it. And yes, he filed a lawsuit, and I don't blame him. And it was settled out of court. I don't think they ever disclosed the amount that it was settled for, but he was owed that because once again, the internet goes wild, blaming somebody who's absolutely innocent. Okay, so we'll let this finish and we'll go to the next one.
It's free and open to the public. In Fitchburg, Kelly Todd-Hill, WCVB News Center 5.
All right.
This $10 million verdict is so.
Now, let's talk about the next one that's going to come up. All right. Now, this is the case of, let me see what her name is. Hang on a second, guys. Why is it looking like that? Okay, here we go. This is going to be the case of it's a TikToker who was charged $10 million, a $10 million verdict against her for wrongly accusing somebody. So let's get this one and we'll talk about it for just a second. This is how it can happen. Hang on a second. I don't remember her name. Let's see. I got to put it back up in here. Hang on just a second. Thanks, guys. For misinformation, right. Let's talk about that one. Okay, hang on a second. No, there was an actual $10 million verdict against her. So let me pull it back up. Sorry, guys. Whoops. Come on. Okay, let me see who this was about. All right, what actually happened versus what she says happened. This is where we're at on this one. This is the second one. So what actually happened in this case is a TikTok creator, a cycle influencer, falsely accused a college professor of murder in the Idaho killings. Or do y'all remember that part of this story? Now we know she didn't do it. The professor, Rebecca Schofield, sued for defamation, and she won. So when this first happened, everybody was running with this story over here about this professor, right? A jury ruled that the accusations were false and harmful. Verdict was $10 million total. It was $2.5 million for compensatory and $7.5 million for punitive. Who made those claims against her? Well, Ashley Gouliard, I'm probably not saying her name right, but she posted a viral TikTok videos accusing the professor of orchestrating these murders. The claims were based on tarot readings, not evidence. I guess she believed in her craft. I'm not sure. I don't know why she would pick this person. I don't know. This is not TikTok paying someone. It's a payout from a lawsuit that she owes. Now, we know she doesn't have $10 million, right? We know she doesn't. It's bad. It's just a bad situation. We're going to let this play for a minute. Let me get and we'll watch about this one. Hang on. So this is actually
so ridiculous and so large that I have to talk about this.
Okay, why is it not showing me her whole? Where's this coming from? Okay, because it's Idaho 4. Okay, so I guess it's Lorda. It's at Lorda Ashley G, and this is her content. And she's going to talk about how she was sued and won, and now she owes $10 million. All right, here we go. All right. Let me put this full credit to her. Florida. Did I spell this right? Okay. Whoops. Ashley G. Okay. Now, full credit to Laura. She's talking about what happened to her. Okay. No, just play it, please. Here we go. Here. It doesn't want to put it up there because it's saying misspells. Yeah, sure. So there we go. This is her story. And this should be a lesson for everybody about running with something that's not true. And look what happened to her. Here we go.
I can't be silent.
Ashley Gia speaking out after a jury ordered the TikToker pay $10 million in damages for falsely connecting a professor in the deaths of 4 University of Idaho students in 2022. In court records reviewed by the Idaho Statesman, Ashley sharing posts in the wake of the killings, accusing Rebecca Schofield. Even after
So they had already started investigating this, and it was already coming out that they thought, thinking about who it actually was or not having, but she continued on with this, even though correct information is coming out already, she's still continuing on as if Kohberger wasn't the person who did it. She just kept on and on. Now, we see other people all over TikTok, all over YouTube, all over everywhere, reading tarot cards, saying they have visions, etc. And how many times have they said it and they were wrong? Now, I'm not saying they're all wrong because we've seen some people get it absolutely right. I'm not going to name names, but there are people on YouTube we have seen get it right. Okay, they found people. We know this. But in this case, it was completely wrong. And it's damaged her and it damaged the person that she actually falsely accused. So here we go.
investigators publicly cleared the faculty member.
It was like freedom of religion and freedom of speech, especially freedom of expression as it pertains to spirituality, was attacked the entire trial.
Ashley taking to social media after the February 27th ruling, dropping more than 25 videos in response to the 8-figure sum she now owes the professor, whose attorney tells Oxygen.com in a statement the $10 million verdict reinforces the judge's decision and sends the clear message that false statements online have consequences in the real world for real people.
Right, they do. They really do have consequences. Okay. And there's so much misinformation that comes out in all of these true crime cases. And I know that a lot of people speculate and they say, and it comes from kind of like they start out with, okay, I'm going to put A, B, C, and D together, and that's why I think this happened, without really thinking about how it's going to affect the people that they're talking about, right? We see it all the time. There is a huge lawsuit right now going on over that started one way, but it's ended up something completely different. And the people all involved started out looking for one person. But now look what's happened to every one of them. Here we go. Let's watch.
And are unacceptable in our community. This comes after Brian Kohberger pled guilty to the murders in July 2025. He was given 4 life sentences to be served concurrently.
All right. She had 25 videos. There was 25 videos referenced with her discussing the fact that it was this professor, and it was not the professor. It never was the professor. Now, there are many more cases like this. Let's talk about the next one that we want to talk about that we know where this happened at. Remember the guy? His last name's Jewell. Remember him? Hang on a sec. We'll pull him up. Hang on a minute. There we go. Richard Jewell. Okay, this is one of the most powerful examples of what happens when the narrative moves faster than the truth. The Centennial Olympic Park bombing, another high-profile case where the wrong person is accused, and it started out from him being in the wrong place at the wrong time, right? A bomb explodes during the Olympics in Atlanta, and the man who helped save lives becomes the suspect. Well, let's talk about who he was. His name was Richard Jewell. He was a security guard who spotted the suspicious backpack, alerted authorities, helped evacuate people, and he was a hero at first. But then what went wrong? Let's talk about this. The media got involved. Before the charges, before the evidence, before the confirmations, his name was leaked. He went from hero to suspect. News outlets treated him like he was the bomber. I know y'all remember this case. It was huge. His life was turned upside down. When this happens to people, they never get their full life back because there's always this little suspicion in other people's heads that what was eventually, what was put out there first must be true. It must be true, but it's not, right? So the truth, here we go. Here's the truth. The real bomber was a guy named Eric Rudolph. He wasn't caught until many years later. And Richard Jewell, he was completely innocent. They didn't just get it wrong, they destroyed the reputation of this man who tried to save lives. The hero's life was ruined. So, this is what happens when the internet or the media moves too fast. And the truth is still catching up in this situation. Richard Jewell, he was officially cleared. He also receives a settlement from multiple media outlets. But here's the reality of what's happened to him. You can't fully undo that kind of damage. You can't. Hey, Cinderella, how you doing, girl? Good to see ya. Nice, good to see ya. We're just talking about what happens when the internet moves faster than the truth and somebody gets falsely accused, and then how it ruins their life, right? No matter what they say, so they still going to think that they're somehow involved or somehow guilty, that kind of thing. So that's what we're talking about. So let's watch I have a video on, let me pull up the Richard Jewell video. Hang on. I made this whole little playlist earlier. Hang on a second. Okay, that's the Idaho 4. Hang on a second. Look over here. My playlist. Whoops. Come on. All right. Hang on, guys. Okay. I got to go over here where I saved my little playlist. Whoops, I think I had it right there, didn't I? Crazy, right? All right, here we go. This is our show today. What is it? Wait a minute, no. Hang on. All right. Come on, let's pull up our playlist. Let's go. Here we go. This is the Richard Jewell story. So hang on.
So this guy saved people from a...
We're going to give full credit to Ray William Johnson. This is his video. So let me give full credit to him. Full credit to Ray William. Yeah. I want to make sure we give our credit to the people who's due. Okay, this is his channel and this is his story. This is his discussion on Richard Jewell. So here we go. Show this. All right. Now let's go back. Oh, my little typo. Oh well. Here we go. Let's talk about it. Here we go. All right.
A bomb, and then the whole world turned against him. Now, the guy's name is Richard, and Richard's 34. He's a security guard working in Atlanta, and one night in 1996, he's working the night shift at the Summer Olympics, which happened to be going on in Atlanta. And he's posted up in this huge park area where spectators are hanging out, eating from concession stands, listening to live music on a big stage nearby. And while he's patrolling, Richard notices a group of drunk people hanging out near a bench. And they're being loud and they're like throwing trash on the ground. And he goes over to confront them.
Okay, we have to stop every once in a while for fair use, and I know you know that. But think about this guy. He's just doing his job. He's hired for this event. He sees people acting rowdy, and he's just patrolling the area. And he's got his eyes on everything, which is what he should be doing. That's his job here. And then this. Here we go.
Them and they leave. But But when they leave a green military backpack under a park bench. Richard's like, hey, you left your bag. And they're like, that's not our bag, you turd. And so Richard starts thinking, this bag's been chilling here for like 30 minutes and no one has come to pick it up. What if there's a bomb in there? And I have no idea why he immediately thinks it's a bomb, but he does. And it's a little paranoid, but he could be right. And so Richard radios his...
Let's talk about why does he think it's a bomb? Well, I can tell you, the reason I think he thinks it's a bomb, because if you're trained to notice everything, and you see something like that, and it's just sitting there. It's just like at the airport. If you see a backpack sitting around and nobody's touching it, you're going to be suspicious of that backpack, because we've seen this happen so many times, and the first thing that comes to our mind is that an unattended backpack must have something in it like that, right? It's just nature. It's human nature, because we've seen this happen so many times. So, and he did save lives. Let's talk about it. He did save lives, but his life is now ruined. Here we go.
Supervisors, and he's like, I think there might be a bomb in this bag. And they call the bomb squad over to investigate this. And so the bomb squad is on their way. Here's the thing though, Richard doesn't know it yet, but he's actually right. There is a bomb inside the bag. 3 pipe bombs, actually, and they're stuffed with shrapnel ready to go off. And while the bomb squad is on their way, an ATF agent comes over to check it out. And this agent gets on the ground and he starts looking at it with a flashlight. And this dude's like, yep, that's a bomb. And so, bam, suddenly Richard and everyone panics and a lot of people run away. But Richard doesn't. Instead, he starts running around trying to...
So, they realize it's actually a bomb, and the mayhem and chaos starts. Because as soon as they hear the word bomb, before they can have any organized a safety plan to get the people out, people start running, and they're in fear, and I don't blame them. I understand that, because there was a lot of people at this place all at the one, and it was, for a person who's going to take a lot of people out, an event like this, of course, would be where you would do this. But, not that anybody should actually plan to do this, but we know people do these kind of things. So, here's the guy. He's trying to calm down. He's going to try to do something orderly. Let's just get it taken care of. And here we go.
To clear out the area. There's a bomb! Get out of the way! Get out of the way! There's a bomb! He's running up to as many people as possible, telling them to get away from this backpack. And it's actually working. Little by little, the crowd starts to back up and flee. Then, all of a sudden, kaboom! One of the bombs goes off, and shrapnel explodes everywhere, and everyone around screams, and they run for their lives, and it's absolute chaos, and pieces fly through the air, and they hit people, including one woman in the head, and she dies. Also, a cameraman is running toward the explosion because he wants to film it, and I guess...
A cameraman is running toward the explosion because he doesn't realize there's 2 bombs. He thinks that it's already went off, right? But there's actually the 2 bombs. Now let me look at something over here, because I want to know exactly, I don't remember how many people were actually injured. So let's look how many people were injured in that bomb. All right, hang on, guys. Okay, with Richard Jewell. Hang on. I forgot to look that up this morning. I forgot to look at that. So let's see. There were 111 people injured, but only 2 people died, which is great. So if he had not noticed that sitting there, and if they had not already called the bomb squad in to take a look at it, imagine how many more people would maybe have lost their life. It's like he was preventing casualties as much as he could at that point. So here we go. Let's keep listening.
He gets too excited and he has a heart attack and he falls over and dies. And overall, 2 people die and 112 people get hurt. But Richard, he actually saved a bunch of lives that day by evacuating everyone beforehand. And so immediately, this bombing is big news and the story blows up. And suddenly the media start.
Oh no, look at that circling piece of shit.
Call metal until Unfortunately for him, not everyone thinks Richard is a hero. Pretty quickly, one of his former employers
Okay, so one of his former employers starts it out there. He starts putting the word out there. Oh, well, it must have been him. So why would a former employer do this to him? What was the beef with him? So does it come back to because you have made people mad before, they're going to automatically put you into it? They're going to smear your name. They're going to make sure you get in trouble. They're going to do anything they can to ruin your life. Is that what this is about? That's one of the things I want to know is why did a former employer, so let's look this up, say it was Richard, Jewell. What was his beef with Richard Jewell? Here we go. Whoops, let me pull this up. Here we go. So the former employer, he did not publicly identify Richard as the bomber. What he actually happened was a more indirect, like a lot messier. What he did was, after the bombing, investigations reporters started digging into Richard Jewell's background, okay? A few things fueled early suspicion. One was, I think, this guy right here. He had previously worked in law enforcement and security, which that's how he got the job. He had security experience, which made him have experience also with, should I be concerned about that backpack that was just left there, right? Some of the former colleagues described him as someone who wanted recognition or authority. Okay. Everybody wants to be recognized for doing something good. I don't necessarily think that because you wanted a little recognition for doing something good or for helping other people makes you a suspect of anything. But, okay. Investigators consider a theory called the hero bomber. And we've seen this before, right? We've seen that before. That theory plus his proximity to the bomb, and he became the person of interest. So, some past co-workers and supervisors, they spoke to investigators and media. They shared opinions about his personality because he was ambitious, he was eager, and he wanted to prove himself. Okay? That does not make you criminal, right? But that's very different than having evidence or formally accusing him. What happened is those character comments got amplified and twisted into something much larger and stronger than they actually were. And here comes the turning point right here. The biggest damage came when law enforcement information leaked. So you've got law enforcement over here investigating someone, right? They leak it out and automatically look what's happened. He is guilty in the press. Let's keep watching.
sees him being interviewed on CNN, and he doesn't like it. He apparently just doesn't like Richard, and he calls in a tip to the FBI, like, I think Richard planted the bomb himself. Now, the FBI, they've been investigating all this, and they apparently don't have a lot of leads in this case, and they need to start making arrests soon, or they're going to look really bad at their job. And so they get this tip, and they start thinking, maybe it was this Richard guy who planted the bomb. And they start investigating him. And journalists, they hear about this, and again, kaboom. Now this version of the story blows up, and every news outlet is talking about how Richard, the hero security guard, is actually a terrorist. And they start running with this whole narrative that he probably planted the bomb himself so that he could come across as a hero. And the media is all over him, chasing him around.
So here's the guy. Again, this was just a little job for him. It was just a job. He's living his life. You know, he's just living his life, just being nice to people, trying to protect people. That was in his nature. So the major media outlets just run with this. And then all of a sudden he's treated as guilty before any charges happen. We have seen this over and over in a lot of our true crime stories that we watch. Innocent people who did not do anything are automatically the suspect without anything to say the reason why they are the suspect other than what started over here on this channel or started over there on that. I mean, people just started saying these things and boom, they're the suspect. So, I mean, it wasn't just the employer pushing it. Now it's every media outlet because his name was leaked by the people investigating it. Now, he wasn't accused because of evidence. He was suspected because of a theory, okay? A story people wanted to believe. But the truth, no evidence ever tied him to the bombing. The real bomber was actually Eric Rudolph, and Richard Jewell was fully cleared. But in the midst of all of that, his life was ruined. Okay, here we go.
Around.
Can you stop for a second, please? Did you turn around?
Where were you?
What kind of questions were they asking?
And so he's staying in his mother's apartment. I think he actually lives with his mom. But look at the media just hanging out outside his mother's apartment, trying to get pictures of him, trying to talk to him. Like suddenly this guy can't go anywhere.
Can you categorically say that you did not do this?
I did not do it.
Categorically.
Yes.
And during all this, he's still kind of doing interviews and they're like confronting him.
I don't know if you ever saw this.
No, sir, I didn't see it.
What's your reaction to it?
Terrible.
Probably sold some papers that day.
And so the FBI, they want to bring Richard.
Probably sold some papers that day. Right, it did. And guess what else that does? When this happens, it brings clicks, likes, and views to these channels. They say it, they repeat it, it's over and over. They hear it from this channel, they hear it from that channel. And it's repeated over and over and over, but none of it are facts. They don't have any facts because let's just face it. In most cases, law enforcement does not, will never release the evidence that they have to the general public. Okay, they need to keep that close to their vest. They want to make sure when they do bring this to trial or to when they build their case, that the information that they're going to use is not ruined because it was leaked out and now they can't use it. Now let's talk about what actually happened to Richard Jewell, okay? He is not alive today. Richard Jewell died on August 29th, 2007 at 44 years old. Don't you think that the stress and all the things he went through from this false accusation just pushed him further along with his heart disease, his complications, and he had diabetes on top of it? So, after being cleared of the bombing, he continued working in law enforcement roles, including as a deputy sheriff in Georgia. A deputy sheriff in Georgia once he got cleared. He filed lawsuits against media outlets and others to clear his name. But his name was never going to really be cleared because the people who believed whatever they heard first are not going to change their mind. Well, he must have been involved somehow, right? He said it wasn't about money. It was about restoring his reputation. I don't blame him, right? But the reality of his story, think about it, even though he was cleared, proven innocent, and then finally recognized as a hero, the damage for being falsely accused never fully went away. Some reports say that the stress of public scrutiny took a toll on his health, and I believe it did, absolutely. So he was cleared, but he never got his life back, which is what happens to these people. So that was one of the clearest examples of false accusations. And what happens as you await the facts, the truth to come out, what happens, right? There's so many of these. There's another one. Let's talk about, let me go to the next one I have up here. Hang on. We're going to listen to the rest of this.
And question him. But they want to trick him into coming in without a lawyer. And so they hit him up and they tell him, we think you're a hero. And they say that they're making a training video on the bombing for future FBI agents to watch. And they invite him to come to the FBI building in Atlanta and talk to them and help them make this training video. And poor naive Richard, he's like, And so he goes to their offices and they start asking him all kinds of questions, but they're real chill. Like this all feels like they're just gathering information for this training video they're making. And one of the agents is like, we want to make this training video as realistic as possible. Just pretend you're a suspect and I'll read you your Miranda rights and we'll record it. And so this agent.
This right here was absolutely horrific. They should be ashamed of themselves for doing that to this man. Now, we know they want to get to the bottom of it. We know they want to get the suspect. They want to clear this. After all, people died. A lot of people were injured. I get that. But you cannot, I'm not going to say you cannot because I don't know enough about the FBI to say whether that was proper or not proper. But in my mind, I think it was improper and they should not have done this because it was not fair to him. They tricked him into saying, if it was me, this is what I would have done. You see how that works? Okay, let's listen.
Starts reading Richard his Miranda rights, and that is when Richard realizes something isn't right. And so he uses their phone and he calls up a friend of his who happens to be a lawyer. And his lawyer friend is like, I see what they're doing here. You get the hell out of that building right now, Richard. And so Richard leaves, and the FBI, they don't get any answers from him. However, unfortunately for him, the FBI isn't done yet. They really seem to want to connect him to this bombing. And so pretty quickly, they get a warrant to search his place. And they go there and they rip his apartment apart for like 7 hours. And they make him sit outside with the media vultures hounding him the whole time. And the media is all snapping candid photos of him. Here's actually a picture of him waiting on the stairwell. Like,
he lost all privacy in his life. He could not do anything without somebody seeing him, approaching him, making comments to him, pointing fingers at him because of this. Because of this. And you know, you can have all kinds of things in your home that could be used to make a bomb, but that does not mean you're making bombs, right? So I don't remember exactly what they did find in his home, but once again, they're finding all these things. They're still accusing him. There are many cases like this. The next one we're going to talk about is the Duke Lacrosse case. These false accusations went national as well. So let's listen to this one, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Looking all depressed. And of course, the FBI, they don't find anything in their search because he's not guilty of anything. And so this chaos goes on for nearly 3 months. The media is just harassing him. The FBI is harassing him. He can't go anywhere without being accused of being a terrorist. He can't sleep, partly because the apartment being surrounded by reporters all the time, and partly due to PTSD from witnessing a freaking bomb go off and watching someone die from it. But as time goes on, it eventually becomes clear that no matter how hard they try, the FBI can't seem to find any evidence that Richard had anything to do with the bombing or that he's guilty of anything at all. And so after a long, embarrassing investigation, the judge...
Think about this. How long it took for them to realize they were not going to get one thing on him. And the whole time, the person who really did the bombing, or the people, because there was 2 people, are out there just running amok, laughing, having a good time because they think, well, we're going to get away with it because they got their eyes on this guy. Because they kept on trying to keep their eyes on this guy. It's like they get this one-track mind and they cannot possibly think it could be somebody else. I'll never understood why they focused on him so hard when there was nothing in his background to show that he would even do anything. Nothing. Here we go.
Justice Department finally releases a formal statement confirming once and for all that Richard has been cleared of any suspicion. And Richard, of course, he's super relieved and he holds a whole press conference.
In its rush to show the world how quickly it could get its man, the FBI trampled on my rights as a citizen.
And he also files a lawsuit against several media outlets for dragging his name through the mud. And he also sues his former employer for talking shit about him. And from this, he gets a bunch of settlement money and he uses that to buy him and his mom a new house. So good for him. And eventually in 2003...
Think about that. He knows who he knew who all had made him look guilty or reported him as could have had something to do with that. I'm glad he sued that former employer. He should have. You have the right to take it to court when somebody falsely accuses you of something and you can prove it, right? You don't have the right to nobody has the right to sit there and say, well, I know it was so-and-so. I know, without any kind of proof or facts. You just can't do that. You need to let law enforcement do their job. Let them, I know people think, well, they're not doing their job. We don't know if they're doing their job or not. Well, look at Nancy Guthrie's case. Let's talk about that one for a minute. Look at the circus around her house when they're trying to investigate that case. Yes, I know her daughter is like an ABC, Good Morning America, whatever. She's very, very successful. She's very famous. And I know people want to get a glimpse and people want to get people want to know first. They want to know first what happened. They think they're going to get the information first because they're right there. But it's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. Anyway, let's finish listening.
They finally catch the real bomber, some psycho who was doing it for political reasons. And now he's in prison for life. So, fuck him.
The search for a missing Brown University student.
Now, the next case where this happened was the Duke Lacrosse case. Now, that's another It's another big case. Let's talk about what happened there. Duke University lacrosse players accused of assault. National outrage and the careers nearly destroyed. The prosecutor later exposed for misconduct, the prosecutors involved, and the players were completely exonerated. Think about that. They weren't just accused, they were convicted in public first. See, that's what happens in all these cases. You are convicted in the public first. That's not the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But what's happening is these people are assumed to be guilty before they even had a chance to prove that they're innocent. So, in the lacrosse case, let's talk about that one next. Okay, lacrosse. Let's talk about everything that happened in that case. Here we go. No, not that one. Hang on. There's so many. I mean, hang on. One moment, please. Okay. So, here's the case right here. It's one of the clearest examples of how fast a story can spread before anyone checks if it's true or not. Okay? So, members of the Duke University lacrosse team were accused of assault. This exploded nationally. The media coverage was intense and one-sided, as usual, because in cases like this where we have this, it's one-sided. Richard Jewell was one-sided. The other, they're one-sided as usual. So overnight, this happened overnight. All of a sudden, the players are labeled as guilty. Their reputations were destroyed. Protests and outrage spread everywhere. Well, let's talk about what actually happened instead of what they said happened. The accusations were false. Evidence did not support the claims. The prosecutor, Mike Nifong, was later found to have withheld evidence, which is a Brady violation, and misled the court. Now, I would like to know if he actually lost his ability to be a lawyer, because he should have. He actually should have. The accused players were fully exonerated. The case collapsed completely, and officials later declared them as innocent. So let's talk about the prosecutor, who is actually really responsible for the situation because he misled and gave false information. So here we go. His name is Mike, and it's Nafong. Here we go. I know I'm not saying it correctly, but anyway, let's just figure out what happened to him when he's the one that caused the problem here. Hang on. Well, he doesn't want to accept that spelling. I know it doesn't, but it's correct, please. Here we go. Okay, here's what happened to him. Mike Nafong was the district attorney in Durham County, North Carolina. He led the prosecution in the Duke lacrosse case. What he did wrong: he withheld DNA evidence that could help prove that these people were innocent, made public statements suggesting guilt before the trial, and continued prosecution despite major inconsistencies. This wasn't just a mistake, it was prosecutorial misconduct. He was found guilty of ethics violations, and he should have been, and he was disbarred in 2007, which means he lost his law license permanently. He served, listen to this, 1 day in jail for contempt of court. 1 day in jail. And he resigned as the district attorney. The accused players, look, it was a tragic rush to accuse these players of this Duke lacrosse team. But there's so many. Look, I believe Amanda Knox is another one. There's so many of them. It's amazing. Let's look at Amanda Knox and see what happened with her. Hang on. She's another public. The story became huge overnight, and it shows how a person can be judged long before the facts are settled. Amanda Knox, here's what happened to her. Amanda Knox, 2007. Knox's roommate, Meredith Ketcher, was murdered in Pergola, Italy. I know I'm not saying it right. It's anyway in Italy. Knox and her boyfriend were arrested. Media coverage exploded worldwide. And almost immediately, a narrative was formed. She was manipulative. She was cold. She was guilty. Well, let's talk about what went wrong in that case. Let's pull up Amanda Knox over here. Hang on a minute. I'll go back over here.
So this guy saved.
Here we go. Oops, here we go. Let's pull up Amanda Knox here. Oh, I gotta do it this way. Sorry. Let's talk about her case. Here's the untold story. Well, I don't want to use 48 hours. Let's use something else. Meredith Catcher. Let's see. This is going to be from, we're going to use Crime Weekly. All right. Now, this is kind of a, here we go. I'm going to talk about her story. Hang on just a second. Okay. Now, this is going to be full credit to Crime Weekly. Hang on. Let me fix that part. We have to do that. Okay. Let me make sure I'm spelling it right. I don't like to have those typos, but sometimes once you do it, well, it's just there. Damn. To, hang on, I forgot Crime Weekly. But they usually have pretty good stories here. To Crime Weekly. Whoops. Why is that there? Why is that little mark there? Here we go. All right. So full credit to Crime Weekly for bringing us this Amanda Knox story. Another situation that should have never happened. All right, here we go. All right, let's go. Let's watch a little bit of this one while we discuss the Amanda Knox story. What are you doing? Come on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Crime Weekly. I'm Stephanie Harlow.
And I'm Derek Lavasser.
So we're diving into part 3 of the Meredith Kircher Amanda.
Let's just
apartment, but also comfortability from the fact of knowing they could do whatever they need to do, like staging the scene after the fact without worrying about someone coming home. So to me, those are the big things. And also, I'm not trying to be funny here, but the feces in the toilet is also to me significant as well.
And I think we both.
Maybe we shouldn't use this one because I didn't realize they had many parts to their story. Let's go find a different one. Maybe this one's not the right one because there's a lot of parts to their story, and I don't want to go in the middle of it, right? Because that's not going to benefit anybody. So here we go. Okay, well, let's talk about the real. Let's see. Okay, the contract. Come on. Oh, it doesn't want to play. All right. Here. Let's give full credit to the full credit where it goes. Okay, so full credit to, I think it's called Mile. Hang on just a second, guy. Mile Higher. All right, here we go. Hang on a second, guys. Mile Higher. Let's get this over here. Okay. They actually start talking about it. All right, here we go.
And obviously, as of right now, she's been acquitted of it. But I don't know. I mean, I still feel like I'm on the fence sometimes on things, and
that's how I feel too.
It's very difficult because I don't think this is one of those cases that we'll never know what really happened. I'm afraid, but
yeah, most likely not.
It's definitely a very interesting.
Which is such a shame. I mean, I feel so bad for Meredith's family and all of this because.
I mean, that right there, even though she's been, she's not charged, she's innocent. They're saying they will never really know. They don't feel like that. I mean, see, they're still wanting to pull her into it for some reason. Okay, well, let's see why they want to.
It's been now just so overshadowed by all the drama.
Oh yeah, it's like all about Amanda Knox. Like she became this like almost celebrity as which is crazy that people get famous off of a true crime case like this. And
I'm sure she wishes she was.
Crazy that people become famous off a true crime. Well, let's talk about that for a moment. We have Gypsy Rose Blanchard over here making money hand over fist off the murder or schmurder of her mother, right? Why? Why is the victim forgot and the perpetrator becomes famous? The perpetrator makes the money. What's going on here? Well, here's another example of that. Our guy in the Florida prison, all of his little girlfriends, all of that information, who don't believe he's guilty, and he's clearly guilty. But he is the perpetrator. But people forgot about the victims already because it's all about him, isn't it? Here we go.
yeah, no, I would imagine you would. I mean, who would want to be known as Foxy Noxy? You know, like,
that's the name they had for her all over the place.
Which apparently translates into
Let's speed this up. Okay, I need to change how fast it's going. Let's put it on 1.25 because We'll have to sit a long time. I can't do that. Here we go. Let's go. All right. Let's listen to
Italian
this.
as evil fox, or like, you know, like the evil, you know, kind of like this, you know, one you can't trust, the sneaky evil person. So yeah, this is a wild one. So
It is.
So before we dive into this case, I also want to thank our sponsors for today. We've got Function of Beauty, Raycon Native, Candid CO.
I think it starts right here. All right, here we go.
So Amanda Knox, she's born in Seattle, but she grew up living in a middle-class suburban neighborhood with her parents, Etta and Curtis, and her younger sister, Deanna. And her parents were divorced, but they lived really close together. So it wasn't, I mean, she still stayed close with everybody. And then they both ended up getting remarried. Her stepfather, Chris Mellis, helped raise her and her sister. And her father and stepmother, Cassandra, had 2 daughters who were Amanda's half-sisters, Ashley and Delaney. And they were a very close-knit family, and Amanda had a very happy childhood. In high school, she went to Seattle Preparatory School, which is a private Catholic school that emphasizes discipline and
Well, she had a nice childhood. She went to private school. I mean, you know, let's look at some other things about Amanda Knox. Why do people still think she's guilty? Let's figure out that for a moment. Why people think she's guilty? All right. Let's take a look. Why people still think Amanda Knox was guilty. And it's the media narrative. Let's be honest about that, because you just heard them say it. Before evidence was clear, a story was already written. She was labeled as Foxy Knoxy by tabloids, all right? Portrayed as manipulative, promiscuous, and cold. The headlines focused on her personality, not the proof. Once people see someone that's, you know, see someone that way, it's hard to undo. And we see that a lot of times. I mean, this always comes back to in these true crime stories where you've got the people, I'm just going to say it. You got the people, well, that's the person who was with them last, they must be the guilty party. No, that's not always true. You can't say that. You should not say that, right? There's no proof in that. We know the stats. We've been told the stats many, many times, right? But I mean, you can't just assume something based on stats, right? Okay. So her behavior did not match her expectations. All right. People expected grief to look a certain way. And that's another part of all of this. People do expect people grieving to look a certain way. And when they don't look that way, well, they must be guilty. We've heard that over and over and over. That doesn't look like a grieving parent. Oh, that doesn't look like a grieving husband. I mean, you hear that all the time, right? She smiled, you know, she did a cartwheel at the police station. She seemed calm or detached to the public, okay? But because she's detached to the public, she's guilty? No, we don't know that. Too many that felt wrong. But behavior does not equal guilt. People react to trauma very differently, and I can attest to that. There was also many confusing and inconsistent statements, early interrogations in a foreign country under pressure. And that's another problem with this case. She's being interrogated in a foreign country. We don't know. We're not there, so we don't know the questions. Too many questions in that particular part of this case, really. That created doubt. Why would her story change, right? She gave statements that were later disputed or retracted, even though interrogation and conditions were later criticized, okay? Multiple trials, reversals, convictions, acquitteds, convictions, acquitteds, conflicting expert opinions, and complex forensic debates. That's what happened in this case. To the public, it looks like if the courts can't decide, maybe she's guilty. What do you mean if the courts can't decide? Well, then maybe she's guilty. If the courts can't decide, it's because they don't have evidence enough to go before people to get to get her put in prison. I mean, really, if you go to trial, it's a jury of your peers, correct? That's how it works. So the actual outcome, Italy's highest court fully acquitted her in 2015. The confirmed killer was Rudy, not Amanda. People didn't just follow the evidence. They followed the versions of her that was sold to them by the media. That's what happened here. And that's the misinformation. And that's how it worked. But here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to play this segment. I'm actually going to take it off because in their mind, they're still questioning whether she's guilty or not guilty. And I'm not going to use that. We're just going to go on to a different one. Let me get off of here. Hang on a minute. Yeah, I don't really want to do that. I don't really think that's fair. And I'm not going to do that. All right, so here we go. Let's go back over here and we'll just talk about this. So it's just like, so do you think it was the evidence or her image? Which one was it? I mean, what happened here? I think that there's just so many times that it's actually backwards. Like people are assumed guilty, not assumed innocent, and it's based on behaviors. Let me get this off here. I don't want to see dots in my face. Although I could probably use the dots because I am a little, got too much sun out there, a little too, brown. Anyway, I think that it just happens so many times, and we just kind of we get it in our mind based off of things we've heard, things we've seen. But once we actually see the actual evidence, and some people can't change their mind, it's just stuck in their head like that. What do you do? I mean, how do you change this? How do we change this from happening? So let me ask you this: how to change the guilty in media, as we're going to say, in the media before the truth comes out? How do we change that? Here we go. Let's see what we can. Let's talk about that for a minute. Because once the media locks in a guilty narrative, it's hard to undo, but it can be challenged if you move fast, factual, and strategic. So here's how to shift the narrative before the truth fully comes out. Let's say if you replace emotions with receipts. Well, let's talk about that. People get very emotional in these cases, especially when it involves children. When it involves children, we really get involved. We want justice for those children so badly, right? The media runs on emotion. You counter it with verifiable facts. Ask for receipts. Don't just go with what you heard. Go get the court documents. Look at the full interviews, not just the clips. Go look at the full interviews. Look at the timelines. Get a timeline, right? If you wait, the narrative just hardens. It just takes longer. You go live quickly to talk about it. You post short clips breaking down one fact at a time. It's just what's being missed in these cases. You need to talk about what's being missed as opposed to what's being thrown out there. And oh, what? That's it. That's over. If you just say they're innocent, people tune out, and they do tune out. People want to see receipts. They want to know, why do you think that? They want to hear other people's thoughts and speculations, or they want to talk about it, right? People want to talk about it. If it doesn't add up, you need information from the investigators. You need to see receipts before you start speaking, and I know that's hard to do. It's very hard to do. Credibility is something that's very important when you're talking about these cases, right? If you don't, you have to have people that you're listening to must be credible. You can't just listen to anybody and everybody, right? There are patterns that go with these things. And it's kind of like the first version of the story is almost never the final truth. So we can't ever go off the first thing we hear. But that's what people remember, because we live in a world of first impressions. They're everything. We've heard that over and over, right? But it's really not true when it comes to this. Emotions spread faster than facts. People share before verifying. It happens all the time. It really does. And it's sad when it happens, because innocent people get their lives ruined. Not everybody, I know everybody's sunburned or whatever, but not everybody can go and file suit, make it smaller. Not everybody's going to go file a suit, because some people live in the world of, sticks and stones might break my bones, but words are never going to hurt me. But what they don't realize about this is, in a highly public case where somebody has been falsely accused, and for years their life is being ruined, if they ever get it back, it never goes back to normal. Look how many times you've got cases like this where the families break up. They end up getting divorced, and the children are the people that are the aftermath, because they've lost, their parents aren't together anymore because somebody was falsely accused. I wonder how many times that happens. When you have falsely accused people, let's look at this I want to know, what's the divorce rate in a falsely accused people? Falsely accused people, divorce rate. Let's take a look at that because it's what happens. Here we go. I know they've done stats on this too. Well, so as the accusations strain these marriages, legal fees can be massive because remember, they're proving that they're innocent. They're trying to prove they're innocent. They lose incomes, they lose jobs. There's uncertainty about the future. That alone can break otherwise stable relationships. Then there's the reputations and the social fallout. Public accusations bring stigma, and it does. We've seen it. Friends, family, and community may distance themselves. Spouses can feel just judged just by their association. Yes, we've seen that a lot. So, even if someone is later cleared, the doubt stays there. Remember, we just saw those people talking about Amanda Knox, and they still had doubt, even though she was cleared. Right? So, what if it's true? People always think, what if it's true? There's that doubt. That's that emotional distance that's growing. Here's the real world patterns about this, though. Now, Richard Jewell was never married, but his personal life was heavily impacted by the accusations and the media pressure. Amanda Knox had relationships deeply affected by the case and its aftermath. In many criminal cases, spouses separate early, sometimes before the trial, even if the accused is later found innocent. It wrecks people's lives. So, according to the internet over here, there's just no specific divorce rate. Like, they've not done a study, I guess, on divorce rates amongst people who were falsely accused of a crime. So the type of accusations, financial versus violent versus public scandals, the level of media exposure, and the length of the case. So the legal crisis and public scandal are among the strongest predictors of a relationship breakdown. I believe that too. Accusation doesn't just put one person on trial, it puts the whole family on trial. That we know as well. It puts their entire life on trial, including their marriages. How many times have you seen innocent people that have children and the children are bullied? The children, because they hear their parents talk about it and they realize they know so-and-so over here, he goes to my school. And because this is being talked about at home and all over the news and every place else, the children involved are being picked on and bullied by the other children because it's presumed that their parent has done something wrong, right? Relationships just aren't, sometimes the relationships just aren't strong enough to survive long enough for the truth to catch up, right? Again, it just ruins your entire life. Now, thank goodness. Okay, let's talk about YouTube for just a minute, and then I'm gonna have to get off here. I can't stay on very long. I just wanted to do a short thing about this. Oh, look at this crap. Oh, go away. I don't know why this thing pops up here all the time. All right, no, go away. We're gonna talk about YouTube for just a minute. YouTube and false accusations. Okay, hang on. Let's take a look over here. Now, YouTube and false accusations, when content becomes consequences, right? Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Let's talk about something happening right now. On YouTube, false accusations don't just spread, they get monetized. I want y'all to think about that statement. They get monetized. Here's the pattern, and you'll see this happening over and over. A creator makes a claim. It's framed as breaking or exclusive news. Other channels repeat it. Clips get cut, they get reposted, they get reshared. And suddenly, it must be a fact. It's everywhere. Look, so-and-so's talking about it. So this, some of your bigger channels are talking about it. It must be a fact. Okay, why it spread so fast? Let's talk about that. Drama equals clicks, right? Accusations equal engagement. Algorithms reward watch time, not the truth. We know that. The more shocking the claim, the faster it travels. But see, here's where it crosses the line legally. You got to think about that part too. This is where it stops being content and becomes defamation. Naming a real person. Making a false statement as a fact. Causing reputation harm. That's exactly what led to the $10 million verdict tied to the TikTok accusations that I talked about earlier. In the Idaho 4, where the professor was falsely accused by the TikTok person, right? Richard Jewell, media rushed and got it wrong. Amanda Knox, narrative is perception. YouTube today, anyone can publish something instantly, and it's believed, whether it's true or not. Same mistakes, just decentralized. So what responsible creators do differently, okay? Here's the difference between content and credibility. Let me tell you something. Your credibility is very, very important on YouTube. Your credibility becomes into question. Your channel may not survive. So if you've done something that you realize you should have not done, go out and make that apology. Be big enough to make that apology. Go make that other video and say, you know what, I was wrong. We should have never said that. Or I wish I wouldn't have said that. Or maybe I should have thought about that before I said that. Maybe I should have thought about real world, not stats. Because we've all done that. Let's be honest about it. I'm going to be honest about it. So, when you show the full clips, not just the edits, you separate the facts from the opinions, because in other words, you need to show receipts, not just, your speculation. You can't do that. You really shouldn't do that. If you say alleged when it's not proven, okay, you use documents, not just reactions. That's how you protect yourself and your audience. See, YouTube doesn't make something true. It just makes it visible. Think about that for a second, all right? And I'm going to have to get off here in a minute. But anyway, it all comes back to the internet moves fast. YouTube moves even faster. But the truth, it has to catch up every single time, right? Have you ever seen a YouTube video that sounded convincing? Oh, yeah, we have. We certainly have. But later just turned out to be completely wrong? Yeah, we have. We absolutely have. That's what happens here. I mean, we really need to stop and think about that. That's why it's really so important. Show your receipts. Be honest. If you made a mistake somewhere along the way, then talk about the mistake that you made. Don't just act like it never happened. Talk about it. Go out there and really, my skin's very burned today. Anyway, go talk about it. Don't just sit there and let it just keep festering and festering and festering. Right? People will listen to a person who says, "Hey, I made a mistake." They'll listen. They will hear you out. Most people realize that people don't intentionally set out to create drama, right? They just don't. Sometimes they just get caught up into the drama of the day that everybody's talking about before they go and fact check. That's what I'm going to say about that. And some things we can't fact check because the information is not out there to fact check, right? I know that. Anyway, so that's what I wanted to talk about today. I hope you enjoyed my show. If you get a chance, please hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to. If you don't want to, please share my channel. I'm working really hard to get the channel back in order. Because when you don't go on for a while, you kind of lose people. And when so anyway, I'm just kind of working on that. I really appreciate your time. And as I always say, be careful out there. Take care of yourself. You'll hug your babies. Life is short and our time with them is even shorter. And yes, I do say that every time because I know that, right? I know that. Hey, Couponing, how you doing? Good to see you, girl. Glad you came by today. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the show. It's just about, false accusations and what really happens and how we should check ourselves, really. How we should check ourselves before we put it out there. But anyway, so myself and Sprinkle Donut are going to come on tomorrow, and we're going to get back on with receipts, with black and white, with the actual videos, something else that we have found about the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. Now, I know a lot of you, or some people still believe that she was a victim of Munchausen, but we know you cannot actually diagnose somebody with Munchausen when they're not alive, right? Now you can go there, the medical, there's all these information that come out from the FOIA documents where we can actually show our receipts, show the clips, put the medical records out there, let you read it for yourself. They've not been doctored, they've not been spliced into something else. That's not, no. All of the information provided is coming from the full FOIAs. All of that information is true. It is real. Gypsy says these things in her own words, right? Nick says these things in his own words. So that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. I'm looking forward to going live with Sprinkle Dunn. It's been a while. I was out of the country and she's been working a lot. But anyway, we're going to come back tomorrow. We're going to talk about a few things. It's going to be tomorrow afternoon, probably about 2:30 or 3 o'clock. We'll get back on and go ahead and talk about that. But anyway, you all have a wonderful day. I'll see you later. I'll probably see you somewhere in chat tonight, or one of our other friends is live. So anyway, I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys. Thank you for coming in. Bye.